Hey, Melanie, we're going to get started. Okay, good afternoon. We are calling to order our meeting of the Bernie Independent School District Board of Trustees. We do have a quorum. We have Mrs. Maritza Gonzalez-Cooper, Dr. Thomas Price, Superintendent, myself, Rich Sena, Carlin Fryer, Donna Sharp, and Joe Tidwell. We will now go into closed session to pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, deliberation regarding matters related to employment, appointments, resignations, terminations, retirements, and reassignments, and discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Code 551.072. It is now 5:03 p.m. We're going into closed session. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you for attending the regular monthly meeting of the Bernie Independent School District Board of Trustees. We do have a quorum. We have on my left Mrs. Maritza Gonzalez-Cooper, Jessica Davila, Garrett Wilson, our superintendent, Dr. Price, myself, Rich Sena, Carlin Fryer, Donna Sharp, and Joe Tidwell. And we will open with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise? And gentlemen, please remove your caps for the presentation of colors presented tonight by the award-winning Bernie champion JROTC Color Guard.
Colors. Present. Colors.
And now, please welcome students from Van Robb Elementary School to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Order. Colors. Colors. Host. Colors turn. March.
And now, please remain standing for a moment of silence and prayer. Please be seated. And now at this time, Mr. President, Dr. Price, our Board of Trustees, our students from Van Rob Elementary have worked up some fantastic questions to ask the board.
That's great. Welcome tonight. If you could please introduce yourself, your name and your grade. And
Hi, I'm Emerson Gonzalez, and I'm a fifth grader. My question is, was there anyone in your school career that made a positive impact on your life?
wow, absolutely. And we'll let multiple people answer this, but I had a lot of really great teachers in my hometown, and I went to the same school district all 13 years. But I was thinking about this just earlier today. My favorite teacher was Mrs. Grant, and she was a high school history teacher, which I loved history. And we used to get into the best discussions and debates in our class, and she made history fun and something that was living for us. And she was also the advisor of a lot of student activities that I was involved in. So when I look back at that, I always think of Mrs. Grant, and I saw her at my 40th high school reunion, and we just had a good time talking about the impact that she had on my life. So that's a great question.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a number I could mention, but I think the number one that sticks out to me wasn't even a teacher, but was a woman called Miss Murray, who basically just kept us all in line at the high school and was kind of our security and everything else. And I really, really liked her, and she always took time out of her day for everybody. And so I'll very grateful for her.
Thank you.
Did you need to be kept in line, Joe?
I was told not to share those stories publicly anymore.
So my favorite teacher was my third grade teacher, Mr. Leitner, and he had an after-school club that was a science club, and it was so cool because we got to do all kinds of fun science experiments. So when I went to college, I studied biology because that really influenced me, and I just loved it. And so he retired a couple of years ago. And I wrote to him and I said, I'm so sorry to hear that you're retiring because you're not going to affect all these children that are coming through the schools now like you affected me. So I love him.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Usher Kukea, and my question to the school board is, did you have a favorite teacher growing up?
Well, that's a similar question, so I'll just jump on this one real quick and answer. So I did, and it was my second grade teacher. And you know what was really special about it? We had the same birthday. So you know who got the best birthday cakes? Me.
Yeah, I had Mr. Beecham, 12th grade English, Flower Bluff High School. If you're watching out there, shout out Mr. Beecham. I don't know where he's at now, but he was a great teacher. He, English is one of those things that I wouldn't necessarily that wouldn't have been my first choice for studying. And at the end of the year, I think it was probably the class I enjoyed the most. And just the amount that some of these teachers, the way that they can teach something and you see how much they care about it and they can make you care about it and they don't have to put that much effort into it and they do. And it makes all the difference in those classes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Avery Orr. Several of us will be going to middle school next year. Where did each of you go to middle school?
I went to middle school in Corpus Christi, but both of my daughters went to Bernie Middle School South, and they loved it, and they had a great experience there. And it was a transition from them going from elementary to middle school to get you ready for high school, but it was a unique experience, and you just got to put all of your heart and your mind into it, and you're going to enjoy middle school. Where are you going to go to middle school?
Middle school South.
There you go.
You're going to love it. It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Hi, I'm Advika Karthikeyan, and I'm a 5th grade student at Van Rob. Several of us are going to middle school next year and are choosing our electives. I was wondering what you guys did for school activities when you were in school.
We didn't have electives when I was in middle school. It's pretty much, you're going to take these classes. So you guys are really fortunate, you know, I mean, take advantage of that because you get a lot of variety in, especially in Bernie ISD and just education these days in general. It's really, really a good thing that education's evolved into.
Thank you.
I was in the band.
Hi, my name is Lauren Ramon, and I'm a 4th grade student at Van Rob Elementary. My question is, I know that the dress code has been a hot topic, but have uniforms ever been considered for the Bernie ISD school district?
Let's see, you were on that committee, weren't you?
I was. I thought it wasn't a hot topic anymore. There's been some discussion about that over the years, but I think if we require uniforms, I think the district would have to pay for them or something like that. If I remember the rules, I'm not exactly positive, but it's, you know, not following a dress code allows you to be an individual. I mean, not having a uniform allows you to be an individual. And so we don't want you to not follow the dress code. So I don't think it's something that's been strongly considered to go to a uniform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Seth Stevens, and we just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the Van Rob staff and students and the Bernie School community.
Thank you. What grade are you in?
4th grade.
All right.
All right, so you'll be kind of a senior next year. Okay, Mr. Benway. We need a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, we have a motion, a second, another second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Mr. Benway, we are on to commendations, are we not?
Yes, sir, we are. Thank you, Mr. President, Dr. Price, Board of Trustees, and our esteemed guests tonight. If we could have our board and Dr. Price walk down so we can have our pictures of all of our commendees tonight. This is my favorite part of the board meeting, and if you've been here before, you've heard me say that we love to honor students and staff accomplishments. And tonight we have 10 different commendations, and we will honor over 120 total members of the Bernie ISD community. So we're very proud that you're here tonight. We have several very great commendations. And let's start it off with Bernie High School sophomore, Michaela Jones. Come on out, Michaela. Michaela was awarded a gold key in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards from the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers. Michaela, who also won the 2022 Bernie ISD Holiday Card Art Contest, advanced to the national competition for her work titled Grandpa Jones, as you see on the big screen. Each year, the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers partners with more than 100 visual arts and literary organizations across the country to bring the Scholastic Awards to local communities. Teens in grades 7 through 12 apply in 29 categories, and submissions are judged by luminaries in the visual and literary arts, some of whom are past award recipients. A big congratulations to Gold Key winner Michaela Jones. And also want to thank Michaela's dad for coming tonight. Let's give Michaela's dad and her supporters a big hand. Thank you for all you do. Congratulations, Michaela. We appreciate you being here tonight. Our next commendation, we recognize the Bernie ISD students who were crowned champions at the 2023 Kendall County Junior Livestock Show. Over 40 BISD students were named champions in the competition, including nearly 10 elementary age students. Some of the categories that BISD students won were in ag mechanics, market swine, market goat, and more. Hundreds of students from across Kendall County competed in this prestigious event and then went on to earn awards at the San Antonio Livestock Show and Rodeo as well. Many of the students you see here tonight would not have been able to compete at the event if it weren't for the new BISD Ag Barn. We also want to do a big thank you to our Bernie ISD Ag teachers. Let's give them a hand. They're here tonight. We also want to thank the Kendall County Junior Livestock Show Association, 4-H, and the Kendall County Fair Association for their support of Bernie ISD Ag students. Let's hear it one more time for the Kendall County Junior Livestock Show champions. And if we could, please have the supporters of our students and our staff that are here, please raise your hands or stand up. We want to thank you for supporting Ag and Bernie ISD. Congratulations. Thank you all for being here tonight. Let's give them one more big hand. Thank you all for being here. Our next commendation honors Bernie High School senior Chloe O'Connor for being named the 22-23 Texas Girls Coaches Association Class 4A, 5A, and 6A Team Tennis Athlete of the Year. Let's hear it for Chloe. Chloe earned this statewide honor thanks to her incredible season she had for the Greyhounds. She finished with a 21-0 doubles record and went 15-3 in singles. Chloe helped lead the Greyhounds to the 2022 UIL Class 4A State Silver Medal, as well as placed third in 4A State Girls Singles last year, and was also named to the inaugural THCCA 4A Super Elite Team, which is a statewide honor. And also, Coach Tyson Stewart, come on up. He's here as well, coach of the Greyhounds. Congratulations to Chloe O'Connor of the Bernie Greyhounds. One more time for Chloe O'Connor. Congratulations, Chloe. Our next commendation celebrates Bernie Middle School North Counselor Rachel Franco and BISD Student Support Counselor Marcy Warner, who earned statewide awards from the Texas School Counselor Association. Rachel was named the Middle School Counselor of the Year, while Marcy was awarded the Multi-Level Counselor of the Year. This is the third year in a row that Bernie ISD earned 2 statewide awards from TSCA. To qualify for these awards, nominations are based on letters of recommendation, a rationale statement, and a resume detailing significant contributions to the field of school counseling. Professional school counseling experience and leadership participation in these areas of supervision, professional development, program implementation, and program advocacy are also considered. This is a huge statewide honor. Congratulations to Rachel Franco and Marcy Warner. Congratulations again. Thank you very much. Our next commendation honors all 13 campuses that earned statewide CREST Awards from the Texas School Counselor Association. Going back to the 21-22 school year, just a year ago, 10 campuses earned these awards. This year marks the first CREST Award for Champion High School, Fair Oaks Ranch, and Kendall Elementary. In 2005, the Texas School Counselor Association began a program called CREST, which stands for Counselors Reinforcing Excellence in Texas, to recognize schools with outstanding counseling programs. Schools receiving CREST Awards have demonstrated a commitment to using the Texas model to improve the lives and achievement of students in academic, career, and personal social domains. Let's hear it for our CREST Award winners, Bernie High School. Please raise your hands when we call out your school. Champion High School. Bernie Middle School North. Bernie Middle School South. Voss Middle School. Bernie Academy. Cibolo Creek Elementary. Currington Elementary. Fabra Elementary. Fair Oaks Ranch Elementary. Herf Elementary. Kendall Elementary. And Van Rob Elementary. And now the fun part, organizing this group photo. If we could have the families and staff members and coworkers of these fine counselors, please raise your hands. We want to make sure to thank you for your support of the Bernie ISD counseling program. One more time for our CREST Award winners. Our next commendation honors Bernie ISD's finance department as well as other departments for being recognized by the Texas Association of School Business Officials with the prestigious Award of Excellence in Financial Management. Let's give them a round of applause. Bernie ISD is one of only 23 districts in the entire state to receive this honor. Established in 2020, the award is given to Texas school districts, open enrollment charter schools, and education service centers that demonstrate professional standards, best practices, and innovations in the area of financial management and reporting. The criteria to qualify for these awards is very stringent and is based on financial accounting and reporting guidelines identified by the TEA across 11 key areas, which are reviewed by a TASBO accounting subcommittee. A special thank you goes out to Bernie ISD Chief Human Resources Officer Dr. Elaine Howard and Chief Operations Officer Henry Acosta for their hard work in helping earn this award as well. Congratulations to the TASBO Award of Excellence in Financial Management. And if you're keeping score at home, this is the third month in a row we've honored this fine department for statewide awards. Let's give them a hand for that honor as well. Congratulations one more time. Let's hear it for them. They did a fantastic job. For our next special commendation, we would like to recognize the Bernie ISD Crossing Guards. Come on down, Bernie ISD Crossing Guards who are here this evening. The Bernie ISD Crossing Guards are often the first and last faces of the school district that our students see. Their devotion to the children is unparalleled as they provide essential safety services in all types of weather conditions. They help the children safely come across some of the busiest streets, and always with a warm and caring attitude. They show them how to safely navigate crosswalks and intersections with lessons our students will carry with them for the rest of their lives. Our community is a safer place because of our BISD school crossing guards. Let's give them a huge hand for all they do for our students. And if you're a family member or a supporter of the Cross Guards tonight, let's raise your hands. We want to make sure we thank you for your support as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much for being here tonight, our Bernie ISD Crossing Guards. For our next commendation, we recognize the families who generously donated to the Bernie Police Foundation to sponsor our school resource officers. If we could have Chief Perez, the Bernie Police Foundation, our SROs, and those families who are here tonight that donated, please come on up. The Gleason family donated $7,500 to Fabra Elementary School. Brad and Julie Roberson, who are not here with us this evening, donated $7,500 to Van Rob Elementary School. Jaime II and Kathleen Sepulveda and their son, Jaime III, donated $7,500 to Kendall Elementary School. And Bill Bird donated $7,500 to Bernie High School. Thank you, Bill. And also, he made another donation of $7,500 to another school just tonight as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Bird. These generous donations assist in standardizing the equipment and acquisition of specialized equipment across all 12 BISD schools. This includes providing additional tools necessary to expedite response times in the event of an emergency. BISD would also like to recognize Ray De La Fuente from the Bernie Police Foundation for his hard work and dedication to organize the fundraiser. Let's give Ray a nice round of applause for all the hard work that he has done. In addition, Bernie ISD would like to recognize John Henderson of Legacy Farmstead for their fundraising efforts. Let's give John a big round of applause tonight as well. And as Ray De La Fuente pointed out to me earlier, they are still looking for sponsors and donors for our other Bernie ISD schools. So go to the website, the Bernie Police Foundation. Let's give them one more big hand for all of their support of Bernie ISD. Our next commendation honors Bernie Middle School North teacher Julie Olson. Come on up, Mrs. Olson. Julie was a parent volunteer during Currington's Bernie Outdoor Academy trip where she saved a person's life. One morning, an employee at the camp was beginning to prepare breakfast when the gas stove exploded in the kitchen. The worker immediately was knocked to the floor and his head was nearly engulfed in flames. Thankfully, Julie was in the kitchen at that fateful time and sprang into action, helping protect the worker's face and body. Luckily, thanks to Julie's quick instinct, she saved that worker's life, and he is recovering and is doing well today. We are extremely proud of Julie's actions and want to thank her for her heroic efforts. Thank you very much to Julie Olson. Thank you for all your work, Julie. We really appreciate it. Let's give Julie one more round of applause. And now Dr. Price has a couple of commendations as well.
Oh, our first one is for our transportation, maintenance, and food service. If they're in the audience, please come forward. And once they get up here, I want to tell you the why we're taking a few minutes just to recognize them and thank them. We had a very interesting situation with the freeze a month ago. These folks helped us keep going. They checked our buildings. Transportation, in particular, one of the things they did that involves Van Robb Elementary School. We love BOA, but BOA, we had all our students up there, about 200 when you combine the elementary school and the high school students that were there, and we had to get them home. We were getting reports on the day they were supposed to come home that we may not, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but we only send enough food for the whole trip, and then it gets kind of scary. And so we were worried about the food, if they had to stay overnight, and the what ifs. The what ifs, electricity went out with all the electrical problems we were having in our area. What if the gas went out? What if? Called over transportation and told them the what ifs. They mapped it out. We monitored. We saw a very small window of opportunity to get all the buses up there because 4 buses, John, where are you in all this? 4 buses plus a caravan of other cars had to get them up there safely in the winding roads, because BOA is in a beautiful location if you've never been there, but it's in some tricky area to drive, especially with ice on the road. And then we needed to get them home safely, not get them stuck up there. They volunteered for this. That extraction team got them home. Maybe a little bit earlier than some people wish, because we didn't want to, we had to take away some of the things. But I've heard from Miss Galt, I'm going to call you your first name, Mrs. Galt, that we've tried to make up for those things as best we possibly could. But I want to thank this team. I also want to thank our food service team for working during the storm to ensure food didn't spoil. One of the biggest hazards for all of us, I thought about this all day as the lights went on and off, is freezers and the ability that we'd have to throw away the food. And coming up and making their way here when a lot of us were staying home and keeping warm, and then checking all of our buildings and making sure that they were safe for our students and staff to come back to. This is a great group. I want to thank you for all you do, not only then, but every single day, keeping our buildings safe, keeping our food warm, keeping our children safe on the roads. It's a thankless duty, and you do it with pride. And thank you very much for being part of our BISD family and for protecting us all and keeping us safe. Thank you. Let's give them a big hand. And I want to see how he does this.
He'll figure it out.
And our last recognition for the night, it's a special recognition. Want to thank our communications department and ask our communications department to come forward. We missing Amanda. Yvette's right here. I wanted to bring them forward because one of the big, let's wait till just, one of our big goals is communications with our staff, our communications with the community. We want you to know what's going on in times of safety. Today, when we were calling for early dismissal on Friday to celebrate our girls as they go off to state, it's important every single day that we have great communication skills. And there's times when we did our surveys out to the community, one of the big things that we would get back is that we need to communicate better. We took that very seriously, and we hired a great group of people to come in and work together to get the messages out, and also just to tell people what's going on, the good things that are going on in the district, and help us handle the not so good things when we have to call an ambulance to a campus, and making sure people understand what's going on. They went to competition, and our BISD communications department won 19 statewide awards. This is the most in the San Antonio area. And they also, there's different levels of awards. Their top level is a Crystal Award Finalist Award. And that was for our, one was for our Workforce Wednesday, which I'm very proud of. That's the opportunity to bring our students together with local employers, and give them that opportunity for their first job. Went great last spring. Was fun for them to share what we did. And the other Crystal one was, remind me, Love Delivered. That's where we work with our students to support local charities like Day One Bags. And Day One Bags is special to us because Day One Bags is run by Hunter Beaton, who is a graduate of Bernie High School. He's one of our own. Wonderful stories. We want to continue to get out those messages for you. And we want to thank this group for making us all look good on a daily basis. So thank you very much. Yeah, photo.
You got to give us the same.
Our associate member of the communications team tonight.
Here we go. Get in there. Ready. One. Smile, Mr. Kidwell. 3. All right. Got it. That's it.
Okay, Brian, we have our video highlight, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Our next item on the agenda is the Bernie ISD video highlights, which will highlight the BEF Wow moment and the February Student Limelight recipient.
Hi, my name is Ellie Kirk. Welcome to Faber Elementary School. Today's wow moment will be in Mrs. Whitney's classroom where the students are learning to make fresh baked bread.
So we were doing Fresh Bread Friday with bread makers that people had donated. So we had multiple different kinds of bread makers, different brands and different styles and different ages. So we put in a grant to get 8 of the same because it's easier on our kids if everything is the same. So we put in the grant and we got 8 original bread makers. And so our kiddos do Fresh Bread Friday every week. There is just so many benefits to Fresh Bread Friday. They get to pick and choose. That's a skill that some of our kids don't have. And they collect the money. They learn how to give the change. They learn how to say thank you for shopping with us. So there's just so many skills, from personal to math to language arts to functional, just so many skills that are available through this one project.
Thank you for supporting every student, every teacher, and every school in Bernie ISD.
CES would like to shine the limelight on Edis Puente. Edis is a wonderful 5th grade leader for our campus. She has been a Currington Cougar since kindergarten and participated in the dual language program all 6 years. Each morning, she welcomes our campus with her bright smile on the morning announcements as part of the KCES news team. Edis is also an active member of our student council, music, art, and running clubs, and supports our school in many ways. She's a model example of a hard worker, and we are proud to have her as our CES bilingual spelling bee champ. Currington Elementary shines brighter because of Edie's leadership, strong work ethic, kindness, and strong character, which she shares around our campus each day.
At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you, Mr. President, to Dr. Price, our Board of Trustees, and our guests, the February Bernie ISD Limelight Student of the Month, Edis Puente from Currington Elementary.
Congratulations, Edis. Congratulations. That's a great honor. You were the spelling bee champion.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, were you ever nervous during that competition?
Just a little bit. You need to practice like a lot.
Now, your mom's a teacher, so I assume she makes you practice quite a bit.
Yeah.
What other questions we have for our Limelight winner?
Was there a word that took you a while to learn how to spell? Like, was there one that was just really hard to remember?
Some of the words with the accents.
Those are tricky. I always get it wrong.
So you enjoy running?
Yeah.
Do you listen to music when you run?
No.
No? You just listen to nature sounds and whatever's out there?
Yeah.
Good for you. I need to learn how to do that.
Now, you're only a 5th grader, so you're very, very young, but if you put a thought into what you might want to become when you get out of school? You've got a long time to figure that out. I didn't figure it out till I was in my 20s, well into my 20s.
What is your favorite thing to do on student council? You're on student council. Remind me of your position again. What do you do?
We just help. Like, we
Do you plan activities in the school or help the teachers? Yeah.
It's great. Do we have any other questions for you? Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
And by the way, your mom's a great teacher. Okay. Do we have any action from items discussed in closed session? Nope. Okay. So visitor comments. Okay, we do have one individual who signed up. The board encourages comments about the district from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or a representative of a group, may do so at this time. We ask that each participant's comments pertain to public education and be no longer than 3 minutes. Remember, the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion of the issue until the appropriate time. And the board always encourages the public to discuss concerns with an appropriate administrator who has the authority to address the concerns. Okay, so we have one speaker. It's Nicole Haygood. Good evening, Nicole. You'll do fine.
Thank you for hearing me. I'm a disabled Marine veteran, retired from federal employment. I would like to tell you a little bit about my son, Oliver, who I call Ollie. He's a senior in high school who just recently turned 18. He enjoys Dungeons and Dragons, prefers to drive a manual car rather than automatic. He expresses himself through his style, having his hair vibrantly colored more often than not. He enjoys Legos and likes to read horror books. He recently did have his first job, but had to quit due to school demands. Ollie enjoys school. He even spends time at school when he doesn't have to. He'll give other people's rides, which puts him at school earlier than he needs to be, or stay late to give rides to other students or to help teachers. Ollie likes all of his teachers and feels comfortable talking to all of them. He has no trouble going to a teacher or school staff if he has a problem or concern. He feels safe and welcome at school. He could have graduated last year, but chose to stay an extra year at his school. This is not happening in Bernie. This is not even happening in Texas. Ollie is transgender. I had to make the life-changing decision to move my son out of Texas so he could attend a small private school in Virginia. When he went to Bernie ISD, he had one out of the many teachers and school staff that he felt comfortable talking to. Only one teacher that knew his true self. The rest of the Bernie ISD staff made Ollie feel unwanted and unsafe. The very people who are in schools to guide and protect our children are not doing that. They are ostracizing our LGBTQ children. There should be at least training and reprisals for teachers who discriminate against LGBTQ students. 56% of LGBTQ students report hearing homophobic comments from school personnel. This type of behavior should not be tolerated. A lot of these children are seeking some sort of support, and something as simple as using the correct name and pronouns can have a profound effect. When transgender students' names and pronouns are respected at school and in other environments, they report 71 fewer symptoms of severe depression, a 34% decrease in reported thoughts of suicide, and a 65% decrease in suicide attempts. Another way the school system can be supportive is through a GSA, a gay-straight alliance, in every middle and high school. Further support of these organizations would show these children that on some level, school can be a safe space and that they have an advocate at school.
Thank you very much. Okay. We now move on to item 7 on the agenda, the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. But before we take a vote, one of the items in the consent agenda is cancellation of the May school trustee election. There was no opposition to the two announced candidates, and one of our candidates, who's I guess going to be a trustee-elect, is sitting in the audience. Do you want to stand up, Christy Schmidt? Okay. That's great. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You're the other one.
Yeah, you're stuck with me for another 3 years. Okay. You're supposed to laugh at that. That was a joke. Okay, do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, great. Off we go. All right. Congratulations, Christy. Okay, you're going to do a great job. And on a side note, I know we don't have to say goodbye to her for another couple of months, but Donna, we are going to miss you. Okay?
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So in a couple months, you can cry at the May meeting, okay, all right, because we will. All right, next, governance, okay. Joe, any updates from committees that you're on?
Patty will give a brief a little bit later, so make sure to cover everything important there.
Okay, Donna?
And the Program Evaluation Committee, we're going to have an update on the results of that today, too.
Carla?
Garrett's going to do Finance Committee overview. I'll talk a little bit about the Facilities Committee meeting we had. It was combined with Bond Oversight and Long Range Steering Committee. We had a rather large committee presentation. Talked about a really good update, Henry, on the bond, 22 bond projects that are underway in many cases, and then the calendar for those that are not yet underway. Kudos to Henry and his staff on the competitive nature of the bids that we're receiving. In many cases, we're under budget. A couple of those are not, but that's okay. We're working on them. The last thing that we talked about is the challenges that we're having related to elementary school number 8 and the permitting process with SAWS, since it's a new process with them bringing water into the district and the powers that SAWS has regarding our permit. So it's been a challenge. I think we're working through those, but there will be plenty of trees as a result. So that's the update from that.
Thanks, Carlin. You're going to go over the Finance Committee?
Sure, yeah. So we had a Finance Committee meeting. We talked about a number of things. I'll just kind of start at the top. We did the 2022-2023 budget sweep estimate, and to summarize that, we budgeted a small deficit during this last budget this last year, and it looks like with just some numbers coming in a little better than we thought, and some interest income from some of the interest that we're getting on some of the funds that we have, that we may get close to breaking even or maybe even having a small surplus. So that's good news all the way around. We also talked about the recent property value study by the state comptroller. The state comptroller has basically said that Kendall County is undervaluing properties. And so even though we don't really have a lot of say in how the appraisal district values properties, which they primarily were targeting our commercial properties, Bernie ISD gets penalized by that. Right now, that's not as big a deal because we are in recapture. But if we were to come out of recapture, then that penalty would grow substantially. So part of the legislative that we're doing, looking at the legislature, is just seeing what they're going to do, and if they do what we hope they would do and take us out of recapture or less than that, then that would become substantially a larger issue for us, larger than it already is. We looked at the initial budget assumptions for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, and took just very cursory projections, and to summarize that one, we need the legislature to pass some good laws this this session. So if just looking at it without knowing exactly what they're going to do, we really need them to raise the basic allotment or do something like that, or we're going to be paying enough recapture, and that it's going to be tough for us. So that's important. One other thing, let's see. We talked about the permanent school fund guarantees. There was some question on whether the permanent school fund, there was kind of a time there where schools weren't getting as good a ratings on their bonds because the school fund, there was an issue there, but it looks like that's been resolved. So the next time we issue a bond, we should have that guarantee to give us the better rating, which would give us the slightly better interest rate. So I think that's the nuts and bolts of what we discussed.
That's a good overview, Garrett, for sure. Jessica, how about anything going on with Bernie Education?
Yes, and I also have an update first on our communications committee. Again, congratulations to the communications team. Just having these meetings with staff and members of the community and parents just shows how much we are making a priority, just improving our communications within the district. We heard from a vendor on our website, And that was kind of nice to get some input and ask some questions. And we also heard from several department updates. And we will be meeting again on April the 17th. BEF Rock On is this Saturday at La Cantera. We have over 500 guests, Havana Nights, and the exciting part is that the silent auction opens on March 1st on the Facebook link. So if you go to BEF's Facebook page, you can start bidding. So open up your hearts and open up your wallets.
Thanks, Jessica. And Maritza? Okay, legislative update, and Garrett can cover part of that, but I wanted to kind of open it up to the entire board because last week, as you know, we adopted legislative priorities for the 88th session of the Texas legislature last August. At the time, it looked like the state was going to be flush with a $27 billion surplus in this biennial budget. That has since increased to over $32 billion. So the state is in a very good shape financially. We did adopt our priorities, which included advocating for using some of that surplus to reduce the maintenance and operation tax rate, which would give relief to those property owners that experienced humongous appraisal increases, as well as a substantial increase in the basic allotment, because there has been no adjustment in the last 4 years, and we've had 14% inflation in that time. So that would allow us to do a lot of things, a lot of very good things for our district and our staff and our students. So with that background, we set up a day in Austin where we had 20 volunteers spend the day. We left Bernie at 6:30, got to the state capitol around 8:45. See, Jerry Lamping was with us that day, and Christy Schmidt was with us that day, and we had 5 different board members and several former board members that joined us in the overall group of 20, and we met with 70 different legislators. We met with every legislative staff and or legislator that serves on the appropriations, finance, or education committees. Our trustee, Joe Tidwell, actually met with the governor and his senior staff last Wednesday, and on Thursday, some of us met with the lieutenant governor's chief of staff and education aide, and the same for House Speaker Phelan. So I just wanted to open it up to those, Garrett, Joe, Donna, Carlin, to add your thoughts as to how the day went. And what you think we accomplished.
Well, I'll start with, I feel like it was an easy sell with the individuals that I had the opportunity to see. I spoke, and again, as Rich said, they were on the Public Education Committee, the Finance Committee, and Appropriations Committee. I spoke to Jose Mendez's office, Morgan Lamantia's office, Senator Whitmire, Senator Zaffarini's office, Senator Chuy Hinojosa, Royce West, all of these individuals, and then our representatives, there was Diego Bernal and Trey Martinez Fisher. And all of them were very receptive. They had heard of Bernie. They were impressed with Bernie. They understood the issues that we have now falling back into recapture. They understand the need to increase teachers' pay. And so we've got a lot of friends on our side that understand exactly what our priorities are and understand the importance of compensating our retirees. And so they are our friends, and I see some good things happening based on the individuals that I had the opportunity to sit down and have discussions.
I can go next. I would definitely agree. I think it was a very worthwhile day. It was a long day, but it was worthwhile. I met with 2 individual House representatives, 3 other chiefs of staff in other House offices, and then 3 other education staffers of 3 other House reps. So of our legislative priorities that the board adopted, the first being, a buy down in the M&O tax rate of some kind, tax relief for our taxpayers. Everyone's very receptive of that. Same thing with increase of the basic allotment. Both of those items have been, they're in bills that have already been discussed, and they're on track, hopefully, as long as we can keep them there. A lot of support, as Donna said, about our retirees and getting a cost of living adjustment. It's been 10 years. The rest of us, been able to get some type of increases over the years, and our retired teachers have not. And it's not just teachers, it's everyone. It's those that keep our schools running. And so we think that that's very important, and there was a lot of positive reception about that. The chairman of the Public Education Committee, his comment was, I don't think there's anyone that wants to go home and face our retirees and tell them that we didn't get them a raise. So that says that there'll probably be some action there. The others were a little bit less aware of the new facilities allotment, fully funding that. When we open new facilities as a fast growth district, obviously that's a challenge for us. And so I think we were able to educate the representatives on some of those issues. So overall, it was a really good day.
Very good. Joe, do you want to share about your meeting with the governor and his staff?
Sure. Really just focused on a couple things. One, really just to say thank you. I don't think legislators and politicians, most of the time, all their interactions with school districts are very antagonistic. So wanted to say thanks particularly for tax compression. The dead horse that I beat all the time here is that our M&O tax rate is the lowest we can legally go. We are not allowed to make it lower. We are a district that very much supports tax compression, which is also a little rare. So wanted to thank him for that and express our support. While I was there, also gave him our, I don't know if we have it in here, but our And God We Trust poster that Ms. Gardner, one of our students, made, presented that to him. And that is now hanging up in the office of the governor. And then the last thing I hit that Mr. Lamping will like was COLA for retirees. But pretty quick meeting. We didn't, hang out for hours.
Okay, Garrett.
Well, I can't add a whole lot to that. I guess I would just say that I thought it was a really productive day. We met with roughly 70 of the legislative staffs out of 180 total, roughly?
Yeah, about 40%.
About 40%. So I think that hopefully made a difference and people noticed that we were there. So yeah, just huge thanks to everybody that went. I thought it was really useful. Everybody was very receptive and listened really well. So that was good.
Well, the governor, one of our teams met him in the elevator at the Capitol, and he asked where everyone was from. They said, we're from Bernie. And he goes, well, I met with a Bernie trustee yesterday. They said, we know. And the rest of us are here today. So I think they know who Bernie is now. Now we had two in the audience. I mean, Jerry, Christy, any comments that you want to share? It was a fun day. And Christy, any thoughts? I learned a long time ago that you're either at the table participating or you're on the menu. And because we've spent $122 million in Robin Hood, we've been on the menu long enough, so we felt good about that. Interestingly, the day after our trip, the teacher vacancy task force that Governor Abbott formed last year to study the issue of teacher retention and how to improve teacher recruitment and retention came out with its 50-page report. And they pointed out, amongst other things like development and career paths, et cetera, and more recruiting, was an increase in the basic allotment so that compensation could be improved. So that's, we'll see if that happens. We're hopeful. But the last time the governor had a commission that addressed educational issues was prior to the 2019 session, which led to House Bill 3, which for 2 or 3 years really offered some strong financial benefits. At the time, we knew that was not the end-all of end-all solutions, but it was a nice thing for a while there. So hopefully the same thing will happen. Jerry, do you want to add something else? That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Mr. Senna, are there next steps that we need to do? Do you need help like sending out follow-up letters with those that meet? I know that was a lot of people to meet with, but is there things that we can do?
Yeah, each team, we had 9 teams that comprised 2 or 3 individuals per team, and each one of them was asked to follow up with emails. I sent mine out today to the group that we met with, because the thing is, you want relationships, and I will tell you, there was one office, I'll say this, the Speaker Phelan, his education aide is sharp, and he fully understands the issues and was very supportive. I mean, quite frankly, the agenda that he said they would promote in the House is very similar to our agenda. The Senate is definitely a harder nut to crack. However, I was pleasantly surprised at some of the things we heard in some of the meetings. So sometimes you wonder if they say things for public consumption, but then they'll vote to do the right thing. We'll see. Time will tell. But there's definitely some relationships that we want to build. There was one senator, we did not have an appointment with him at all, Brandon Creighton, but they took us over to the Sam Houston building where his education aide sits, and we had a 20-minute meeting with him, and he was taking copious notes and asked some excellent questions. So, you know, if nothing else, you know, you build a relationship, you try to make an impression, and it's good that we were there, you know, because it's easy to do nothing, but then if you do nothing, you don't expect anything good to happen. So any event, well, thank you for that. Thanks for getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and being there. Okay. That's it for board updates. So Dr. Price, you are on.
Mine's going to be rather short because if you want to hear the full version, you need to come Thursday at noon to the State of the District. Got a lot of great things, and that will be over at the Cana Ballroom. And we're going to share a lot about what our students are doing, what we plan on doing, and just our situation for the future. But a couple of things real quickly just to get people thinking out there. We will be finishing up our strategic plan over the next couple of months. The strategic plan is the academic plan. What do we want to look like? We did this 5 years ago. Out of that, a lot of things came: our plan for technology, how we're using it at the campuses, our P-Tech Academy that we opened last year, and the plans for our medical early college that we plan on opening 2024. This is a very important document because you need to know what goes on inside the buildings before you start talking about building more buildings or designing them. We will then in the summer roll out into a master planning committee to kind of lay out the big rocks and some of the details about where we believe, based on demographics, based on the strategic plan, that will grow over the next 10 to 15 years, with the idea that things could change. We could grow faster, we could grow slower, the world itself could change, and we would adapt as we go, but it would give us an idea as we go forward what we need to tackle in the next bond election, the following bond elections as we grow. So that will probably take about 6 months. And the thing I want to emphasize, I've shared this with several groups, this is not a bond committee. This isn't what we're going to build for the next bond. This is a planning committee looking at what we need to do to really make sure there's some equity in our older buildings, because we've got to remember when we open up number 8, every other elementary is now the older elementary school. When we open up high school number 3, which will be in the future, everything, Champion no longer will be the new high school. And so what are we doing to make sure the learning opportunities at all of our campuses are equitable for our students and the experience that we need to provide them? Some real good news, I think. This week's exciting. We have early dismissal on Friday, and we are doing that because our Bernie High School girls will be playing in the Final Four at 3 o'clock in the Alamo Dome, and we want to make sure that we can color it purple and get out there to support our girls. I don't think people realize this is something we need to keep repeating. This is the second time in 3 years that they've appeared in the Final Four. The last time was during COVID, and it wasn't the traditional at the Alamo Dome, so we couldn't get out and support them. It was out in Houston and Del Mar Stadium. It was hard. And then ending wasn't as good as what we wanted it to be. This year we have high hopes, and they've done great. They beat Fredericksburg 3 times, which is very difficult to do. Fredericksburg being in the top 10, and when they beat them the first time, Fredericksburg was number 2 in the state. So it's going to be a tough, but if they win against Sunnyvale on Friday, we play at 7 o'clock, sorry Yvette, in the Alamo Dome. So a lot of us will be there and get to rock on as quickly as we possibly can. But on the heels of that, we have our 2 boys basketball teams who are still active, playing tomorrow, one against the dreaded Alamo Heights, and who's Lavernia. We could be in the same situation next week. We wouldn't have to worry about early dismissal, but the state tournament in the Alamo Dome is late next week, ending on Saturday, so hopefully we can make it a doubleheader as we go. It was nice last year. We had both of the boys in the Final Four. It was a fun activity to go to.
Are you going to have like a little TV for us at Rock On for us to watch it?
I
Somebody
do
going to
know that
illegally stream?
She's working on that. It's our kids, and we'll go into this on the State of the District. Our kids, our staff, you saw it today with all the, today was kind of unique that usually we don't have that many adults that we're recognizing, but you also have to recognize the staff who's doing a super job, because we couldn't be as good as we are without the staff we have. But we'll talk a lot about some things that are going on Thursday and how we can get better over the next couple of years. I want to end this real quickly, and I don't really do this, and y'all know I don't like reading in public, but I got an interesting email today from Kyle Wilkinson. I'm a third-generation resident of Bernie with 2 teenage daughters in our amazing school system. I work in San Antonio, where my employees always jokingly refer to me as the mayor of Bernie because how I promote and gush about our wonderful community. My wife has been away caring for her father after surgery in Pennsylvania for the past 10 days. One of my duties during this time was to pick up my 8th grade daughter from the bus stop after school. Last Friday, the traffic on I-10 was exceptional, and it put me about 5 minutes late to the pickup spot. I waited a few minutes, called her phone, and immediately went to voicemail. I called Voss Middle School and was greeted by Rena Romero, and she was pleasant, attentive, and professional. She checked to see if there was a delay or issue that would have made her late to the bus stop. After confirming the bus was on time, she jumped into action and quickly confirmed my daughter was not still at school. I drove toward the middle school, checking areas I thought she might be waiting for me with no luck. I arrived at the school and was directed to Kathy Cornett's office, which resembled a war room. Chief of security on the line, 3 monitors searching footage from hallways, and the final period to gather clues to help us find her. That it goes on. It talks about the teachers and staff remembering what my daughter was wearing and who she was walking around with during the day, at different parts of the day. It says, I hate to admit they knew more about what she was wearing than I did. Mr. Goodrich was in constant contact with Miss Cornett, checking around the bus stop area in Bernie, and even showed up on my Ring doorbell at my house. It was truly surreal watching the 5 ladies, along with the chief of safety, work seamlessly together for the next agonizing minutes. It was like an orchestra or a ballet, each communicating clearly and quickly, realizing the sense of urgency as each minute passed. After what seemed like forever, in the middle school of organized chaos, Miss Cornett received a phone call, and her smile immediately changed the atmosphere in the room from terror to celebration. It was Mr. Goodrich, and he had found my Charlotte. So, I know our staff a lot of times does not get to hear the good, but our community, we always say we're a reflection, they do appreciate. And I think we need to give Ms. Cornett, her staff, and Chief, where's Chief, a hand. This happens more often than what we would like to admit, and it's great when it all comes together and they're appreciated. So thank you very much. And that's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Price. Okay, we have a review of the special programs audit report. Annie.
Good evening, school board members. Dr. Price. I'd like to introduce to you Judith Moaning from Stetson and Associates. Judith will go over the program review for us this evening.
Real quickly before, just reminding everybody, one of the things that we did really well prior to COVID was we would bring an outside auditor reviewer in to look at our programs and help us to grow. Self-evaluations are good, but self-evaluations most of the time turn out really well. And we want true feedback. We know as a growing district, we're always going to have areas to grow on. We have some great things going on, and we celebrate those, but we want to be very open about what we can do better. Continuous learning, we want to be a role model for our students. And after COVID ended, we've really tried to crawl back last year, bringing our kids up to where we were prior to in our learning process, and now we're off to doing that again about the audits. And so this is our first real big one, and thank you for being part of this for us.
Thank you. Judith Moaning with Stetson and Associates. Stetson is a small consulting firm. They have been in existence for 37 years. We have worked with districts across the state of Texas and in 36 states other than Texas. I've been with them for 9 years. It's been a real adventure. Completing an evaluation such as this is a complex process. It requires that we look at a variety of data, sufficient data that we can describe findings of what is currently in place, and then make some good recommendations for the district. Our sources of data included a variety of interviews with central office staff, with every principal in the district. We did focus groups, 5 separate focus groups, elementary principals, secondary principals, parents, general ed teachers, and special ed teachers. We did classroom observations. We were in 87 classrooms across the district on every single campus. We don't usually go into every campus, but your superintendent requested that we did that, and the tool that we used is included in the report for your review. We also did a comparison study using available TEA data that is published online, comparing Bernie ISD to 6 other fairly similar school districts. We did a parent survey. We received, that went out to every single parent of a student with a disability in your district. There are now over 1,500 of those students. We received 155 responses to the survey. In the report, we describe what came in through the parent survey, and we issue a caution. While that information is rich, it is valuable, and it is incredibly important, with representation from only 10% of your special ed parents, we have to say, take that with caution. It does not represent every single one of your parents that have a child in special ed. We also did a random survey of special education folders. You've got to have a ruler, a yardstick to measure against. What we've got on the screen are some research-based quality indicators for serving students with disabilities. We use those as our standard as we reviewed the data. In the report, we describe 19 separate substantive findings. They're described in depth. Some of those findings are very positive. Some of those findings are an opportunity for the district to consider improvements and some small changes. They're important. And while there are 19 findings in the report, I'm going to highlight 9 of them this evening. First, the 4 that are very, very positive. One of those, staff in Bernie ISD view inclusion as positive and valuable for students. I did not talk to a single staff member or parent who did not believe that the inclusive efforts your schools are making were not seeing benefit for your students. We found a range of supports for students with disabilities provided on every single one of Bernie ISD campuses. What is significant about that is you don't see it in all school districts. What I'm referring to are services for your students that have more significant disabilities. Those students served in life skills or in behavior support programs. Bernie ISD had made the decision that they would provide those services on every single campus. Again, it's rare to find that, so we considered that a very strong positive. It's important to note that while our parent survey responses were not too as broad as we would have liked to have received, the majority of parents who did respond reported very positively about the services that the district is providing to their students. The strong majority of the indicators had positive ratings in the 80 to 90% and even higher range. And finally, Bernie ISD does present a strong picture of compliance with state and federal requirements. This is very important. It takes a lot of work on the part of the district to achieve that. And while there were a number of positive findings, we also highlighted a number of ways that the district can consider improving and moving forward. One finding that I put at the top of the list is very important. Teachers and campus administrators strongly believe that the special education program is not sufficiently staffed. I could make a joke and say that I have yet, in a long education career, met a principal who believes that they have sufficient staff. However, the feelings were so strong and echoed across the board that it was important to take note of. And that really aligns with the next finding, which is the student-centered process for determining what do each individual student need and how is that information going to be used to shape a schedule of special education services. Your special education director currently provides individual support to each campus on an annual basis in creating that schedule, but we felt that that process could be improved. We also, related to staffing, found fairly limited staffing levels at the central special education office. There are 3 people in the office, 3 professionals, and 2 of them are devoted to special education. You're a growing district with great needs. So we wanted to highlight that. And while we found inclusion of value in the district and valued by the staff that we spent time with, we found also that there are currently very limited options for general educators and special educators to plan together on a regular basis. The district uses the PLC, the Professional Learning Community Process, to achieve that. But that is really not sufficient to achieve the quality and depth of planning that needs to occur to give you the outcomes that you want to see. And finally, our pre-K classrooms. Those are on every elementary campus, and they are fully inclusive, which is a strong positive. These classrooms are staffed by a single teacher and 1 or more paraeducators. Teacher holds dual certification in special education and pre-K. The concern was that a single teacher may not be able to provide sufficient support to a classroom that can be upwards to 18 students if some of those students happen to have more significant disabilities. It would be difficult to provide for the needs of those children at the same time as we are providing for the needs of typical students who are in that classroom. Before I move on to some recommendations, I'm wondering, are there any questions? Okay. We made 23 recommendations in depth in the report. I'm going to highlight 9 of those tonight. One recommendation has to do with that student-centered process and how information about individual students is used to build a schedule on each campus for delivering that support. Special education cannot be staffed in the same way as general education. In general ed, we can use ratios. If you've got this many kids, you get this many teachers. We cannot do that for special ed simply because we begin with the needs of individual students. It's a very complex process. We made a number of recommendations, attached a number of tools for the district to consider as they refine that particular process to support campuses. In terms of the life skills program and the behavior support program, we recommend that the district develop written guidelines that can be published, that can be used in training and used with principals. Those guidelines would be very valuable to your principals as they hire teachers to fill those classrooms and as they supervise those teachers. The written guidelines would also be a great support for your families who might have children placed in those particular settings. In terms of pre-K, we made a number of recommendations. One possibility would be to return to some type of co-teaching situation in those classrooms where there is a pre-K teacher and a special education teacher, either for part of the day or the full day. Another option would have you step away from services on each individual campus and establish a one or more centralized pre-K classrooms for those children that have the most significant disabilities. We also recommended that you revisit staffing levels for your central office special education program. The district has added a number of instructional coaches for general ed and for programs serving students who are second language learners. It may be time to consider providing some of those positions to support special education. Moving on to professional development, differentiated instruction is one that we can always recommend training for our general educators to receive. Inclusive practices means that our general educators are serving a highly diverse population within each and every one of their classrooms. Unfortunately, not every child will be able to complete the same activity in the same way and finish it on the same day. That's known as differentiated instruction, and so additional training in that area will be of benefit to our classrooms. The district is in the process of transitioning at the middle school and high school level from the SAC, the Student Assignment Assistance Center at each middle school and high school, to a process of providing additional support within general classrooms. Our recommendation was that as you move through that process, that we carefully consider professional development needs, communication, and written clarification, so that teachers, principals understand the process, and their parents also understand that process. We've addressed a couple of recommendations for professional development. One recommendation was to establish a stakeholder group, including central office special education, principals, some teachers, and perhaps even some parents, to look at at least a 3-year plan for professional development. The report that we provided included a lot of ideas. I'm sure that stakeholder group would have additional ideas for professional development. Professional development is a big deal. You've only got a few days during the school year when students are not present and the district can provide professional development. That leaves days when we might pull teachers out of classrooms and creates the issue of students not receiving instruction and needing to find substitute teachers. There are many ways to approach professional development. It does not have to be a full day sit and get endeavor. We made many recommendations for the district to consider ways to approach professional development, do what needs to be done without removing teachers significantly from the classroom. Another recommendation deals with the issue of collaborative planning. You're a district that values inclusive practices, and you are strongly inclusive. However, if general ed and special ed teachers are not planning together on a regular basis, and this does not have to be an extremely long period of time, 15, 20, up to 30 minutes a week can be sufficient. Otherwise, if I am the special ed teacher who's walking into a classroom to provide support, I can be helpful to the students, but we have not planned on what my role is going to be in that classroom. We haven't looked carefully at the lesson plans and identified scaffolding and accommodations that are going to be needed by the students. When we move our special ed staff into classrooms, what we hope to see is additional small group instruction. And without planning, we're not going to get the biggest bang for our buck. Finally, while we got a lot of positive feedback from parents, we also recommend that the district continue to seek new ways to include parents in the special education process. Questions? Okay.
Now, do you mention a district level class for young students with significant disabilities? How would that work in a district like ours with 12 different, with 7 soon to be 8 elementary schools?
Okay. The ARD process, which considers the student assessment, would make that recommendation. The district would establish very clear guidelines as to which students would be best served in that particular type of classroom. For some young students coming into school, they might be there for a fairly short period of time, several weeks. For some students, that might be the appropriate placement for their time as a preschooler. Good question.
Other questions?
How, on the focus groups, you had a number of different focus groups. How did y'all select those? Were this people volunteered, or they were random, or?
They were pretty random. For the parent group, I asked that that group include parents that the district knew were positive, and also parents who were less than positive about the services that they received. I think we had about 12 parents at the focus group. Typically, a focus group is anywhere from 8 to 15 people. We focus on 2 questions. What is the district doing well to support students with disabilities, and in what ways might the district improve?
Well, if I remember right, what we did was we invited some folks, and then we had a very helpful parent who decided to post it on social media and invite whoever wanted to come. So it was a pretty random group.
It was an interesting evening with that group of families.
It was. But we're open to everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Percentage-wise, when you say understaffed, I mean, I know it's hard to know. Like, what are you talking about? Like 10% more, 20% more?
Okay. We were not comfortable concurring that either you were understaffed or sufficiently staffed, because we felt that the scheduling process that was being used could be significantly refined. And if it was refined, then you would have the data to make determination on a year-to-year basis. Are we understaffed, or are we sufficiently staffed? It all flows together. And again, for special ed, it begins with that ARD meeting that looks at the individual needs of students. But that should flow very smoothly through the year, so that in March or April, the principal has on a single sheet of paper the needs of every child with an IEP on their campus, a plan for how those kids are going to be grouped, and that will tell us, do we have enough staff to meet those needs? And it will vary from year to year, because your student population will vary. Good question, though.
You know, I noticed you kind of made that point in the more in-depth report about the staffing levels, because I compared us to the other districts, which I think it was a good selection of districts that we compared it to.
It was a good one.
And so that point came out in that. One thing that struck me was the significant increase in the percentage of students served through the special ed. And I don't know, Annie, if you could comment on that. We went from 9.2% to 13.1%. I think we have the highest percent of those 6 districts that we included. What's the reasoning for that?
Annie, when did the state allow us to start putting dyslexia into special ed? And that's really the way the state wanted. The state at the time forever did not want dyslexia in special ed, even though it is a special need. With some of the things that's going on in the state, getting involved in things they couldn't, like capping numbers and things like that, it's opened up and it's allowed us to service more of our children that need the service. So that's the big jump, is that just that alone. But just like Annie said, I questioned some things, and it does not qualify is a good number. It's
That's a
working.
very good percentage, actually. Districts across the state are reporting increases in identification for special ed, but I was struck by the steep increase that you have seen here in your community.
Yeah.
That's because the addition of this dyslexia.
Yes.
Well, and also remember, we went through 2 years of COVID, and I just can't help but think that widened some gaps for some kids who were borderline in need, and may have pushed some of those kids into services that they needed services to catch up. I think there's some environmental factors in all of this also.
An interesting issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I probably should, one more question, I probably should know the answer to this, but on page 1 of the report, where it talks about the national system of serving students with disabilities in public schools and the history over the past 45 years, at the time of the passage of Education of All Handicapped Children's Act, it was estimated that over 1 million children with disabilities in the United States were not provided a public school education, and that an additional 3 million were being served in public schools or not being provided appropriate services. And the word public schools keeps on coming up again and again and again. Are private schools not required to?
The special education law is a law that applies to public schools. And again, at the time that law was passed, a school district could say to a family that had a child with a significant disability, we're very sorry, but we don't have services for your child. And the intent of the law was to ensure that every child had access to a public school education. But no, that does not apply to private schools.
So
Yeah, private schools.
now I'm being facetious and rhetorical in what I'm about to say. We have folks that want vouchers to go to private schools that charge 2 and 3 and sometimes 4 times what we spend on a per student basis, but there's no room at the inn for those children at these schools. Am I right?
There is no law that requires it.
Okay, I see people nodding their heads, so I'm right. Okay. Hopefully our legislators will remember that.
We'd like to thank you for the opportunity to work with your district. It was truly an honor. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that was a great report. Okay, so Dr. Price, we have Avid and Larissa. No, Cynthia, come on up.
You ready?
First time I've had to lift the mic. I'm usually the short one. Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Price, and board members. Give us an update, give you all an update on our AVID for the school year. Of course, AVID is Advancement via Individual Determination, and it's what we are using currently at our schools, and we are going to support our student success and human capital there at the middle schools. Avid changed their mission, so I wanted to highlight it this evening. They changed it last summer to add in not only to prepare students for college, but also career. And of course, that's a focus here in Bernie ISD for us with college and career readiness. It's a school-wide transformational effort that they're putting forward to focus on leadership and systems of instruction and culture. And it's designed to increase the number of students who enroll and succeed in higher ed and in the careers beyond high school. When we look at our instructional blueprint, AVID supports that because our educators are trained in AVID, which teaches our students academic and social skills to help develop habits and behaviors to succeed in the rigorous curriculum, as well as gives resources and supports the instructional blueprint. Our implementation with AVID is that the foundational skills are normally taught in an AVID elective. However, we put those into our middle school electives in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in student leadership, wellness, college and career readiness, STEM, and digital literacy electives. We do not currently have the traditional middle school AVID elective. However, next year, for the first year, we're going to have an optional 8th grade AVID elective for students to opt into that, and we'll have numbers on that soon to see how many students are choosing to do that.
What is a traditional AVID elective?
We incorporate it into our curriculum for our middle school electives, and traditionally it's a standalone elective. And the students are not only provided all of the instruction, but they're also provided tutoring and a lot of whole child development in those classes. And so we're offering that to our 8th graders. It would be in addition to the course that they'll take in college and career readiness.
Yeah, right now, a lot of colleges, as part of their first year, they're requiring students to take organizational skills, study skills class. It's become part of the curriculum, and it's really an AVID class. And as we develop into our dual credit in our early college, and we start adding courses, one of the things that we can do is provide that study skills, or in some places it's the AVID class that can get the students the college credit they need to opt out of those classes. So the big difference, a lot of times in your traditional place, this class is aimed at students who are falling between the gaps that we miss for whatever reason. A lot of times they're children, minority students, poverty level students, free and reduced lunch, and there's this belief that giving them this extra help can close that gap and close that opportunity gap. What we've chosen to do that's very unique is we feel like study skills, organization skills, those are needed by all of our students to prepare them with a great foundation. What this class will be aimed towards more is that traditional. We'll lean heavily on our teachers, lean heavily on our counselors to identify students that may fall in that gap, that may need that extra, because in it, as Cindy said, you build in the tutorials that are part of the class. You build in a lot of, let's go and see the colleges to build that momentum. But it's almost like a mentorship. That teacher, part of their duty is to work with other teachers, other administrators, and kind of advocate for these students to make sure they're being successful. So it's kind of taking it to a deeper level. And when it's working right, it really does change lives.
So just to kind of highlight our implementation, we've had the last 3 school years. We started out with our 6th graders in the 2021 school year, and then of course we had 7th grade in 21 and 22. And this year is our first year to have it school-wide at all 3 middle schools. So all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are able to have Avid as part of all of their courses, actually. It's just the foundational skills are taught in those Avid electives, and then our core content teachers are hitting those as well in the classrooms. And for the 23-24 school year, of course, we would like to offer an Avid elective for our 9th grade students, and of course, as a pending approval. And we continue to implement our schools. One of the major things that we are focusing on at our middle schools is what Avid calls WICR. And it's just an acronym for writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And these strategies are being taught across all content areas at the middle schools. And so if there's mention WICR, that's what they're referencing to, is that things. Last summer, as far as professional learning, we had over 75 of our teachers, counselors, school administrators, teaching and learning staff, instructional coaches attend summer training. And so we had Summer Institute, which is a 3-day summer institute that Avid puts on. We had lots of folks attend that. And then we had a few attend the online version of that. And then, of course, we had our own internal Bernie ISD version that we had some teachers attend. So we had lots of professional learning going on with Avid last summer. One of the things that we have implemented is an Avid site coordinator at each middle school. And they're key to the success of the program at the middle schools, because they organize the site team meetings, which they usually have those quarterly. Sometimes they're having more than that. They work with the staff on making sure they have the professional learning they need and letting the district know what those needs are, as well as Dr. Price mentioned, talking about the students that would potentially be in this 8th grade elective class. They would obviously have recommendations for those, because these coordinators are also teachers in those elective classrooms who see all the children. In each summer, when we go to Summer Institute, the Avid site teams work on the Avid site goals. And this summer, all 3 middle schools kind of focused around the same thing on both of their goals. The first goal, of course, was implementation of WICR into not only those elective classrooms, but also all content areas, so that students are supported in the efforts to become college, career, and military ready. Our second goal there was around creating an environment of Avid culture on the campus, an environment where students see the college and the career culture. And so in those pictures, you'll see some students in the bottom there, they're doing a Socratic seminar. So that's a part of our WICR strategies, the collaboration, and their writing and reading and all sorts of things during a Socratic seminar. And then in the upper right, of course, they're working collaboratively there on a project. And then on the left, we have brought in some community members, military, and some business leaders come in and speak with students. And so as we move forward with the program, in the next few years, we're working on taking the students out and looking at some businesses and looking at some colleges. Start that process earlier with our middle school students. So our implementation plan for next year, of course, will continue at our middle school level with our students receiving those foundational skills in their electives. And then they will also, of course, have the school-wide, and as I mentioned earlier, the 8th grade Avid elective. And then we will be working on professional learning for our high school teachers as well. We introduced it to them last summer and gave them opportunity to come some internal training. And so we'll be continuing that process this summer. Any questions?
Just a comment, they didn't have any of this stuff when I was in school. And this is, of course, I'm older. I'm the oldest guy on the dais, but this is exciting stuff. It exposes our kids to more options to learn.
Thank you.
You're a good man, Joe Tidwell. Okay. Larissa.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Senna, Dr. Price, members of the board, tonight I bring to you the district annual report public hearing for the school year of 21-22. The district annual report has 8 sections, and I'll be going through those rather quickly. So please stop me if you have any questions. The 8 sections are listed on this slide. The first section has to do with our Texas Academic Performance Report, also known as our TAPER report. It is compiled by TEA. It uses all PEIMS and student assessment data. It is a comprehensive report that includes student demographics, district staff programming, etc. The complete reports for the district and the campus reports are linked also on this slide for your review. The first page of the TAPER report includes our accountability rating for 2022, which was a A. Also our special education determination status, which was meets requirements. It would also include distinction designations, which for the district we did not receive any, as campuses did. We had a record number of 21 distinctions across the district, but the district can only earn 1, which is post-secondary, and we did not meet that for 2022. Not yet. We will. I wanted to highlight some of the information on our TAPER report. I'm going to start with student demographics. Our enrollment for 21-22 was marked at 10,268 students, with roughly an even split between our male and female students. Also listed there by grade level is the number of students for your reference. The next slide has to do with also our ethnicity and subpopulation breakdown of our student demographics. What I've also included for you is our BISD percentages compared to our state percentages for your reference. Moving on to staff, we had a total of 1,218 staff members, which include professional, aides, and auxiliary. I would like to highlight the teacher turnover rate, which has been on the decrease year after year. And we are well below the state average, which is a very good thing. Last year we were at 14% for the 2021 school year. Now for the 21-22 school year, we are at 13.4, which is good. The big section of the TAPER report has to do with student assessment data and our STAR testing. For the 21-22 school year, we had a participation rate on STAR of 100%. And for all grade levels and all subjects, performance levels are listed on this slide. There are 3 performance levels: approaches, meets, and masters. And I've included all tests and all grades, the overall percentage of BISD compared to the region, and the state percentages for your reference.
You know, the 100% participation rate is something to highlight, because there are school districts that get in trouble because they go below 95% is the penalty. Very few have 100% participation rate, which I was surprised to see this, because if someone opts out, which you can but you can't, it counts against us and would go against that rate. So for us to be located where we are and to have 100%, that's a remarkable.
On this next slide, I've highlighted our reading and math subject areas for all grade levels on the 3 different performance levels for approaches, meets, and masters. Again, BISD compared to the region and the state. As you can see that Bernie ISD percentages are well above both region and state percentages for reading and math. The next slide has to do with school progress. Students who are taking math and reading year to year. The TAPER report decided to highlight school progress from year 2019 to 2022, since there was a cancellation of the STAR test in 2020. So as you can see here, we did have an increase in percentage in both subject areas, from a 72 to a 76 in those 2 years, and of course, both above the region and state percentages. The TAPER report also highlights one of our subpopulations of bilingual ESL and emergent bilingual students. So listed here for all grades and all subjects for this particular subpopulation, the performance levels from 21 to 22 in all three increased, which is tremendous. There were significant increases in both reading and math at all three performance levels. And of course, this is a testament to the focused work that each of our campus leaders are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed this and I wrote down the word used. This is significant. I mean, to go in the masters in reading from 6% to 22, that's phenomenal. I mean, obviously there's good work, but is there specific approaches that you see being used? I mean, these are impressive gains.
We've implemented many programming aspects for our bilingual and emergent bilingual students. For example, we implemented Summit K-12, which is a TELPUS test prep. That's one. We added emerging bilingual coaches at each of our secondary schools. Again, it's just persistent and focused planning on that particular subpopulation. The TAPER report also highlights attendance, graduation, and dropout rates. Now, I will remind you that this is lag year data. So for the 21-22 school year, this is data from the 2021 school year. So as you can see, our attendance rate did decrease from the previous year by 0.6%, but so did the state also by 3.3%. The dropout rate for BISD decreased by 0.1%, while the state rate increased by 0.8%. And our four-year graduation rate also increased. Foundation with no endorsement also decreased, and it's below the state average, which is something we've been working on. This is a good thing, to have more of our students graduating with a endorsement or at distinguished level, which you can see at the foundation distinguished level. We had an increase from the year before of 5.5%. Also highlighted on the TAPER report is CCMR. Again, this is data that lags a year. So this is from the 2021 school year. Our CCMR rate was at 71 for the district, again, higher than the region and the state. Any questions on the TAPER report? Okay, section 2 of the annual report has to do with PEIMS, financial standard reports for the district and the campus. Linked here on the slide also is the district report, which includes all revenues, expenditures, disbursements, tax rates, and the fund balance for the 2021 school year. The campus reports also have all expenditures. Any questions regarding these, please see our CFO, Mr. Westcott. Section 3 has to do with district accreditation status. TA has suspended the accreditation until the 22-23 school year, so no district accreditation status was assigned. Yes, that's correct. Section 4 includes our campus performance objectives, which are our campus improvement plans, which are approved by the board every year. So linked here on the slide are the district plan and the campus improvement plan. Included in those are the performance objectives and progress measures per campus. Section 5 has to do with a report on violent or criminal incidents. We are required to publish as part of the annual report a report on this. We did have one off-campus incident that occurred that had to be recorded by one of our high schools. The student is no longer enrolled. Also linked on this slide is the listing of school prevention interventions, which is also a requirement of the annual report. Section 6 has to do with students enrolled in post-secondary institutions. This data comes from the Texas Higher Educating Coordinating Board. This information illustrates where our graduates enrolled the fall of 21. So these are graduates of May of 21 and where they enrolled fall of 21. You can see that the majority of these students were not found or not trackable, but these are the most common enrolled Texas schools.
What's that one at the top?
I'm sorry, I can't read that. It's too small. Texas A&M University, sir.
You know, I think what you're trying to point out, Joe, is that there are almost 3 times the number of Aggies as there are Longhorns. I think that's what you're trying to... Well, Texas A&M is 57 and UT Austin is 21.
The next slide highlights the breakdown by campus. The first chart has to do with CHS and their graduates for that school year and where they enrolled and in which type of university they enrolled in. As you can see, a majority of the students were not either found or not trackable. So this just means that they either went to school out of state or they went directly into the workforce.
Well, and that's one of the things we've discussed, because there's this myth that everybody's going to college, and that's why our career and technology programs are so important, and how we've really been pushing those as we've grown to make sure they're meeting the needs of all of our students. Because remember, the state's goal is to get 30%. What's the state goal? 30 by 30?
Oh, 60.
60 by 30.
Which is going to be increasing in the next couple of years, yes.
And we help, but we don't meet the 60% either.
Correct, we're not there yet. Section 7 has to do with the progress of the district and campuses towards meeting board-adopted House Bill 3 goals. Each district is required to report on their progress for early childhood literacy and mathematics proficiency in grade 3 and also CCMR. The progress presentation is linked on this slide for your reference, and these are 5-year goals with yearly checkpoints. But in summary, for grade 3 literacy, our outcome goal is to have 68% of our students at the MEETS level in reading by 2025. We actually have surpassed that goal in 2022, and we're hoping to maintain and if not increase that percentage for 2023. But we also have to remember that we're going to be administering a new test, STAR 2.0, this year, and adjustments to our accountability will have an effect on where we stand. So our goal, of course, is just to maintain progress for this year. For grade 3 math proficiency, our outcome goal is to have 70% of our students at the MEETS level in math by 2025. Where we have made progress from 21 to 22, we're still not there yet. We're about 6% short of our targeted goal. And for CCMR, our goal is to have 80% of our graduates CCMR by 2025. Right now, we are at 71%. Section 8 of the taper is, the annual report is the taper glossary, which includes definitions, methodologies, and list sources for every data point on the report for your reference. That concludes my report, and I believe we do need to have a public hearing.
Right, that's correct. So it is now 8:38. We'll open up the public hearing for anyone that wants to make comments on the taper report that Ms. Flores just presented. Jerry.
Yes, I'd like to comment on the attendance rate. I think it's very important and very substantial that the attendance rate is at the high level that it is. For when we get paid, or you get paid, the district gets paid by the state by the number of kids that attend daily. So that's very important for a taxpayer. We get funding from the state. It's also, you can't teach a kid if he's not in class. So it's very important in that. But also, that high attendance rate is not there by accident. It's there because a lot of people put a lot of effort into getting attendance. And it also shows that our facilities are exceptional. You can't have a high attendance rate with poor facilities, with poor indoor air quality, poor environment. You can't get the kids there if you don't have the transportation and the food. So I'm very pleased to see that our attendance rate has been high and it stays high.
Any other comments? Okay, it's now 8:40. We'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions for Larissa? Okay, we need a motion to approve the annual report. We have a motion. We have a second. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion
I
carries.
just have a comment. Great job. I mean, the team has obviously put a lot of effort and time in working with the kids. The numbers are, fantastic all the way around. So great job to your team. Please pass on our kudos to them.
It's the collective work with all the campus administrators as well. I have to give them, of course. They do the work. Okay, my next report is the middle of year progress monitoring report. We're just waiting for technology. So the middle of year report is on all of our diagnostics and screeners that we utilize to account for student growth throughout the year. And of course, all of the information I'll be sharing with you tonight ties directly to our district scorecard under student success. Right?
Yeah. Follow along and.
Apologize for that. I just reshared it with Ms. Hollop. So we're going to start with reading and language arts for our early childhood grades. We use two different instruments, CLI and M-Class. Early childhood state testing for pre-K, House Bill 3 does require a common approach to diagnostics. TEA has identified a single tool to help teachers with students' reading development and comprehension. The tool is called CLI, Engage or Circle. So in the provision of high-quality full-day pre-K for 4-year-old students, districts must collect data regarding student progress in 5 areas: language and communication, reading literacy, writing literacy, math, and health and wellness. These assessments are conducted at the beginning, middle, and end of the year in English and in Spanish. All assessments provide teachers with a holistic understanding of each student and assist in providing targeted instruction. This chart illustrates how our pre-K students rated holistically in the 5 areas. If you have the chart in front of you, you can see that our English students are progressing. There is a concern with our students that are testing in the Spanish area, but I will, you have to keep in mind also that from beginning of year to middle of year, the expectations for each benchmark do increase. So the test does get increasingly more difficult. So whereas there may be, our students are progressing and making increases, it may not have been enough to meet that benchmark for those particular areas.
If I remember correctly, on the Spanish folks testing in Spanish language, that's a pretty small number, so we're going to see a lot of variability.
Correct, and now this is our pre-K students only.
Right.
So yes, it's going to be a very small percentage.
So what kinds of questions are there that tells us if they're on track? I mean, these are really little kids.
So these are teacher-directed assessments that are done child to child very quickly. So the questions, I could get those for you.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes, they are. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. All right, in grades K through 2, we use M-Class DIBELS in English. Areas that are addressed on this assessment are phonemic awareness, phonics, word reading, fluency, and comprehension. There we go. The middle of year data indicates students are maintaining skills with a need for continued acceleration. The difficulty of the assessment increases from the beginning to middle to end of year, and the performance goals are higher at each assessment point than the same skill and performance level being required. Therefore, while our goal would be for an increase at middle of year benchmark, students are maintaining and growing at the expected rate. An additional note also is that we are testing our dual language students this year, both in English and in Spanish. So if they're EBs, they're being tested in Spanish as well. If they are EB students, we are testing them in English in the hopes of building that biliteracy, bicultural. You need to be proficient in both languages. Okay, so Lectura is a new Spanish screener for our district for early literacy in grades K through 2. So while we did see an improvement in first and second grade, we are a little concerned with the regression in the data for kindergarten, but we know that our English dominant kindergartners are still learning the language and will have a delay in grade level proficiency as they learn a second language. So in addition, we're reviewing the data and providing teacher professional learning for those staff members. The next section has to do with reading language arts, iStation, and Read 180. So all of our students K through 8th take the ISIP exam monthly, but they also take the diagnostic tests in September and January. Our district scorecard goal is to decrease the number of students K through 8th grade from Tier 3 reading levels by 1% by the end of May. At the midpoint here in January, you can see that we've already been able to make that decrease. Our hope is to maintain and to grow that as well, and to increase our Tier 1 reading level. This is the same information, just by grade level. You can see the overall decrease in Tier 3, an increase in Tier 1, which is what we want to see. There is a minor anomaly with our 6th graders. They were to take the test during the ICE days, and they took it the day they returned. So if you know 6th graders, you know they probably didn't take it and do it as well as they should have. So we did allow for a retest for our 6th grade group. I don't have that data with me, but we are updating it this next week. Also at 8th grade, we did have a couple of teachers who have been absent, and so that did lead to kind of a decrease in the overall percentage. But overall, we are seeing the increase in Tier 1. Read 180 is a proven research-based program that is helping our most at-risk students. You can see the gains. We have 106 students in grades 6 through 12 that are currently enrolled, both in middle school and high school. You have to also keep in mind that most of our Read 180 students are also our House Bill 4545 students, and most, not all, are our special education students as well. On the next slide, you will see that the gains are significant in Lexile scores for these students. In the middle school, there's been a gain of at least 38 points, and for our high school students, a gain of 80 points, which is significant when you're looking at reading levels. At the beginning of the year, any student scoring less than a 600 reading inventory is administered the phonics inventory, which is also called Systems 44, which is the prescribed assessment for these particular students. So in the beginning of the year, we had 28 total students in the red in pre or beginning decoding. Now, after January middle of year testing, we have moved 21 of those students into developing or advancing decoding. So they're making progress with these hard to reach students. Now in the area of mathematics, for elementary, we have 2 screeners, Aspens and E-Star, M-Star. For our grades K and 1, all students were assessed through the Aspens screener. The purpose of this screener is to identify students in need of intervention and support. The chart illustrates the performance levels by grade level, and the students needing intensive intervention has decreased by 256 students from the beginning of the year. The strategic support level increased by 48 students, and the at or above benchmark level increased by 405 students from 47 to 74%. That is significant for our KN1 students.
And this is in math.
Correct.
Okay, so, to go from at or above grade level 47 up to 74%, and I'm assuming, like you mentioned earlier, they're expected to know more
as the year progresses.
So you have a much higher percentage of kids at or above with a higher expectation of what they should know. Okay.
The next chart illustrates our K-1 Aspen students that take the test in Spanish. Again, this chart illustrates performance levels by grade level. January middle of year data for the Spanish administration, students needing intervention decreased by 31 students or 45%, and the at or above benchmark level increased by 67 or 37%, which is also significant for our K and 1 students. All elementary students in grades 2 through 5 take the E-Star M-Star Universal Mathematics Screener. This is an adaptive screener which tiers students based on their performance, and the purpose of this is to identify students, again, who are in need of intervention or support. This chart illustrates the performance levels by grade level from the January middle of year data. Levels of Tier 3 have decreased in each grade, and Tier 1 has grown in all grade levels, 2 through 5. So our biggest gains you can see are seen in grade 4, which we saw a 27% increase in Tier 1. iExcel is a program for mathematics that we have implemented in grades 6 through 10. And teachers are still learning how to navigate through the system. But we were able to give a diagnostic in the beginning of the year and now in the middle of the year for grades 6 through 8. The results of the screener identify students showing, again, need of tier 2 and 3 interventions. 6th through 8th grade did show a decrease in students in Tier 3, which is good, and an increase of instruction of Tier 1. Every student who completed the exam has a detailed report of strengths and weaknesses, and teachers can view the areas of focus during Tier 1 instruction. This is the first year we've implemented any type of math program at our high school, and this is specifically for our Algebra 1 students, our 9th grade and 10th grade students. So just so keep in reference, we only have a total of 9 10th grade students who are, again, below grade level, and that's why they're still in Algebra 1. But we are working with them, so they are considered in Tier 3 instruction. 9th grade has showed a reduction in students requiring Tier 3 and a small increase in students at or above grade level. Again, this is the first year that we've implemented this program at the high school, so we're still learning and have some growing pains there. How is this data used? Data is used to create target groups for interventions and individualized plans for each student. And of course, teachers continue to use data to address learning gaps at all levels of students during our PLC time.
And you know, we just went through the report on special ed. When you talk about data and tracking every student, we're talking about every student. Special ed students, our EB students, and so we make adjustments for all.
Yeah, it's impressive, these numbers moving from Tier 3 and Tier 2 to Tier 1 and some of these, and some of this data. I think it's easy to lose track in the numbers how significant that is, the amount of hours and effort that it takes to move kids from those tiers. I would imagine it's a lot of work on the teacher's part.
We have tremendous teachers here in Bernie.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just great job.
For the children to achieve the best that they can, but you share this with them, I suppose.
What we do in the PLCs.
PLCs, that's what we do.
Okay.
And we've been using these tools for the last, 3 years or so?
So iExcel is math. It was replaced Imagine Math. So we did have a math screener, but it didn't have a algebra portion, so that's why we decided to go with iExcel. iStation we have had for several years. M-Class Dibbles, those are the last couple of years through House Bill 3 were required. Mm-hmm.
Much to celebrate.
Our team's done a good job of coming in and setting these up. And it's not easy because not everybody wants to do it. But if you don't measure, you don't know what the children need. And this is a constantly, we don't do bluebirds, redbirds, and all those other birds that we used to do when we were all in school, but you need to know where every child is so that if that child starts slowing down, you can immediately give him the remediation he or she needs and not wait till the end of the year, because the STAR test is the end of the year, one time, and if we wait to remediate at that point in time, then we lose a year. So the whole idea about this is you catch the children where they are, individualize, as she states, and discuss how we can bring each and every person up. And it's working. And sometimes it's very painful. It's not the easiest thing to do. And one of the things we've talked about in here, with our demographics and our scores, we don't have to do it. We wouldn't be doing our jobs because every child wouldn't be moving up. But we could come away probably with a B on the state scorecard without much effort whatsoever. But that is missing a lot of students, and our goal is that every student will be as successful as we possibly can give them the opportunity to be. So it's not easy.
Well, and I remember there was a lot of decision-making and thought around the investment in these programs early on, at a time when we didn't have a lot of money, but we knew, and especially with COVID coming along, we knew how important it was and what was going to happen. And that is why we are back where we are prior to COVID. And I mean, it's because of all the hard work you folks have done to make sure that this happens, and the programs, and trusting and believing, because you can spend money all day on these things, and unless you believe in them and unless you implement them. And I know I'm speaking to the choir, but again, thank you all for doing that and making the effort, because it is something extra on everything else extra that you do. And it's amazing, and we appreciate it, and the kids are just so much better off for it, and that's why BISD is so great. And we need to keep our money so we can continue these programs.
You know, I'll echo that.
It is
it's the difference between being good or very good and being excellent. And if you're going to do something, you might as well try to be excellent. And I appreciate, obviously, it's a tremendous amount of work to go from being, A is considered excellent. At least when I was a kid, A meant excellent, B was very good, C was average. Well, B is very good, but it's not excellent. And the amount of incremental work to go from being very good to excellent is a lot, but our children benefit. So job well done by everybody.
I want to echo a little bit of that, but I also want to say thanks for the succinct delivery and the data. So when we go through these, whether it's every other month, every quarter, whatever it is, this data became invaluable, I will tell you, on Thursday of last week when we were at the state legislature. I used this information saying, we've scored an A, accountability all 3 years that it's been issued. Talked about our students being able to be at a performance level today where they were pre-COVID. We talked about all of these things, and what I kept reiterating was accountability. And we're not afraid of accountability. And I think if you can show what the scores are, you can show the progress that's been made, it makes for a very easy argument when you're out, when you're advocating on behalf of the district. So thank you.
Right. Okay. Wes, I think you are up with a couple of items. You share that joke every month, and they all know that. They all know that's not true. So go ahead, proceed.
All right. You've been given in board book the parameter orders for the sale of the second sale, the 2022 bond authorization. I am required by law to read the parameter orders word for word. This will be good. That's my second.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. You've been provided this order. We're going to take this good for 12 months, but we intend to take the sale to market in April or May. We're discussing that date right now. We know whatever date it's going to be, it's not going to be the week of May the 2nd and 3rd. That's when the heads of the Federal Reserve Bank get together and discuss raising rates again. So probably happen twice before we It's a bad week to take it. But I think for you, it's going to be a $65 million sale. Should, spring. Any questions? Painting, excuse me, to sale.
Just say from the finance committee standpoint, we had presentation on this last week. My days are all running together. Last week, and certainly much more thorough discussion about it. Certainly, I'm in favor of moving forward. So I'd be happy to make a motion. Or Garrett, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope.
Definitely entertain a motion.
So, Mr. President, I move to approve the district's order authorizing the bonds.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have 3 seconds. Okay. Any questions for?
And
Yes.
by the way, Michelle, our advisor, security. Technical.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Great. We've got that done. And now you're going to move on to the monthly financial reports.
And I don't have another joke for the report. I have a gift. Dr. Howard has contributed some jokes. I'm opening for me. My gift to you is I'm not going to tell those jokes.
But she may be required, before we adjourn the meeting, she may be required to come up here and tell.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
It's not on the agenda.
All right, that's fine. Okay.
All right. You have been provided with the monthly financial reports for the period ending January 31st. Those are within expectations and within. There are a couple of things I would like to point out in this report. Garrett had touched on what we discussed in committee, that we are looking like the deficit is going to be significantly smaller budgeted, primarily due to the interest income that we'll be earning this year, which just continues to go up. Looking at 6-month investments that are yielding percent right, so it's incredible how much they're going. That is a piece of the capital project report. January, $45 million, $30 million, 700. So that's a nice bonus. The debt service fund is in deficit right now. That was, you'll remember we talked about the budget deficit. We reminder that we did service well. That was a timing issue. Prior year escrow and expended to pay down the bond holder 2000 bond series. Interest income will mitigate that one as well, but I expect there to be a plus plan. Story of January. Well, I guess it's the story, not story. I was initially concerned. If you look at tax collections, there's 2 percentage points in previous years. That equates to over $3 million in tax. And I was initially concerned by that. There's 2 things: the winter storm action, first election, both taxpayers' ability to make their payments, and then the tax office ability to process those payments. We're going to see a lot of in February. the February report will give us a good idea of whether elections have bounced or not. Percentage perspective, I don't. Additionally, I went and ran a model on what happens if it actually down, and the benefits once again of being a recapture district. Want to be sure we're able to pay all our recapture. On our tax collection, submit to the state, they almost make up for that state aid. Not entirely, but it's not. So we will see. We look on election. Donations. The big donation that you see this year, each and every donation we get, support BISD, we appreciate. At this time, the donation, $1,000 donation from Kindle for their project that was discussed in board earlier. That was actually received during this past month. Have any questions or concerns related to January reports or life or style?
Questions? Go ahead.
6-month treasury bills are 25. CDs are. It's hard not. You got to try really hard.
I have a couple of questions on the debt service fund.
Yes.
The state program revenues has exceeded not only the budget, but the addition of the budget. Is that the money where they give us to make up for the homestead exemption situation?
Yeah, that was a little bit they call it Asahi, or additional state aid for home exemption. That was a little bit hard to predict this year because of the increase from 25,000 to 40,000. The effect was a little bit hard to predict the significant.
So the state is maintaining that. The state is maintaining that.
Yes.
Payment.
Yes. Well, this was the first year that they gave us.
Okay. The other question was on the child nutrition fund. It looks like we're going to have, a substantial increase in the fund balance. Last year we bought the freezer and extra food or whatever, but once the fund balance gets to a certain level, what do we do then at that point?
We need to have good plans in place for surplus in the advent that we do get a surplus. Otherwise, we'll absorb it. One of the indirect costs. You get over a certain percent. That's bringing that into the general fund is legitimate. Certain expenditure, but to the extent that you got a good plan for
It's part of the capital replacement that we do with the ovens, the whole bit for the kitchens, the dishwashers, the whole bit. We can use that.
That's good. So we could fund it that way. Okay, great. Any other questions for Mr. Scott? We do need a motion.
Before we move on, so can you use those funds for like classroom, culinary arts, classroom upgrades, things like that? Or is it just cafeteria?
I thought it was just.
I think it would be tough to justify something.
Moving it around, just thought.
Yeah, I mean, we've even done in other districts, electricity and the whole bit. We build them out for their electric bill to get the money back to the general. So there's different things we can look at. It's a really good problem to have.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see it's being consistent the past 2 years. You didn't know what it was going to be like. Remember last year, it was free to everybody and everything, so it's not. We still serve, this is a tidbit for my state of the district, we still serve over 3,000 meals a day, which is, it's remarkable. And we'll be bringing next month the contract recommendation for continuing SFE. I believe that's the plan, is next month.
That is gone.
Okay, still bidding, okay. So it's not SFE, we don't know yet.
Okay. All right, any other questions? We do need a motion.
I move to approve the budget amendments, donation report, and tax collection report as presented.
Thank you, Garrett. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, our last item on the agenda, item 11, is future business at our next March meeting, interim test results CTE report. At this point, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. We have adjourned.
It was good. It really was. It was longer than usual, but it was good.